with Stephane Fymat, VP of Product Marketing. Stephane, tell us what's new at BendixKing.
So at BendixKing, we've been very, very busy over the last 12 months. At this show, we've announced 3 categories of new products. This includes autopilots, engine monitors, and navigators. Now, all 3 of these are done in partnership with other members of AEA, with other companies. So we've been doing quite a bit. And so if you want me to get into a little bit more detail, so for the autopilots, we've partnered with TrueTrack, which is a leading provider of experimental autopilots, and now also certified autopilots. And so we're working with them. We've announced it as the Aero-Cruise 100 and the X-Cruise 100. Okay, and these are more affordable autopilots for experimental and certified aircraft owners who want to put an autopilot into their aircraft. Next are engine monitors, and with this we're working with JP Instruments. Mm-hmm. And so here we've announced 3 engine monitors. One of them is for experimental aircraft, which is called X-Point 100, and then 2 certified models. And the 2 certified models are called Aero-Point 200 and 300. Mm-hmm. A bit of a misnomer because the Aero-Point 200 is for single engine aircraft, and the Aero-Point 300 is for twin engine aircraft.
There you go.
Yep. And then the next thing is navigators. So here we've partnered with Avidyne, mm-hmm. A company that's been around a very long time as well, and who has a wonderful navigator. And so that is going to be the Aero-Nav 800, 900, and 910. Okay. Now with all of these partners, initially we start out we're partnering with them and taking their product to all of our customers through all of our channels. But then over the near future, you'll hear more from us as we start doing more and more constructive technological work with them to bring it together mm-hmm. Into an even more seamless solution.
It's an interesting mix of products. You're covering areas that, at least in the engine monitor area, that's something we haven't seen a whole lot, anything new in that area, so mm-hmm. we're glad to see additional players. Of course, partnering with JP is, as they say, it's not rocket surgery. They're good folks, they know what they're doing.
Yes.
The Avidyne selection is a very good one. I've got a lot of experience with their products, having been an R9 operator and owner for quite some time, and found some of their work to be some of the best in the business, especially when it came to menuing, orthodoxy, just the way you set up priorities, the simplicity of being able to undertake complex tasks, which in other systems could take dozens upon dozens of button pushes, switches, this, that, and the other,
right.
which were far more simplified under the
right.
Avidyne methodology. And of course, in autopilots right now, the problem with autopilots for the longest period of time is they just got more and more and more expensive, and the feature set didn't change. And then with this revolution that's occurred now with these folks working into the experimental industry and then beyond, it's certainly changed the price point, and it's made other companies who have been in that space at premium value, shall we say, have to pay attention. So seeing BendixKing provide that kind of oomph behind it is pretty solid, pretty important.
Yeah, and for us, there's a number of things going on in why we're doing this. One part of it is, as you well know, the certified marketplace and the experimental aircraft marketplace really starting to blend, right? It's no longer that hard wall that was there before. Mm-hmm. And so even as experimental vendors are coming into the certified space, it makes sense for certified vendors to go to the experimental space. The other thing that's sort of driving us is really a sense of openness. Mm-hmm. You mentioned to me right before we get on the interview about philosophy and psychology of what's going on inside of BendixKing, and that could be summarized by one word, which would be openness. Mm-hmm. Right? Being open to allowing things to work well together. We don't have to make it all, but we can help enable that everything works well together. And beyond the benefits that it brings to the partner companies, to us, it brings benefit to owners, right? Owners are not locked in. Owners can pick and choose some of what they want and bring it together and have it work well.
Outstanding. The ability for companies to cooperate and work together in this industry is somewhat unique. In many other industries, especially in high-tech areas, everybody's the dirty, filthy, nasty competition and the like. So reaching out and building relationships is something that's fairly unique to the avionics segment. I mean, there's people out here who realize it's better to do some business together than no business separately.
Right.
How do you qualify a partner like this? Because let's face it, while all three have decent reps, although one is fairly new in the sequence there, they're messing with your rep at that point if they don't perform.
That's true. That is true. And vice versa, frankly, right? We have to deliver for them, right?
Absolutely.
We provide customer support and sales, and we have to represent them as well as they would. Mm-hmm. So how we qualify them, in most cases, we've been very, very fortunate because oftentimes they start out as suppliers, right? We start out, using them as a supplier for something, so we get to know them.
Yeah. The dating period.
The dating period, if you wish, right? Sometimes a very extended dating period. But this allows us to get to know them, get to know their people, get to know their engineers, the products. Many of our people will fly their products in their airplanes. So this way, it's not just a blind date and then let's get married. There's more of a get to know you process.
Okay. The industry overall right now has been a little turbulent in that everybody, of course, has been pushing for better positioning for ADS-B 2020.
Yes.
Right around the corner. The big question is among a number of the members of the community as to whether or not the FAA will give on the date, and current indications are not going to happen. But looking beyond the push through 2020, how do you see BendixKing positioning itself for building a healthy business after all the fuss is over?
So if you're asking me about just sort of overall product lines, right?
Yeah.
So there are four sort of major directions that BendixKing is pursuing, right? One of them, as you're rightly pointing out, is ADS-B, right? Now we know, and everybody knows, that after the peak of 2019 and some tail in 2020, things will taper off a little bit, and then there'll be some waviness as other countries put in the mandate, and that's already part of our business plans. There's three other areas that we're really focused on. One is integrated flight decks. So you probably know that last year we launched the AeroView integrated flight deck. We recently got a new STC for the Black Hawk version of the King Air B200, in addition to the regular King Air B200 that we have right now. And we're extending that platform into many other retrofit opportunities. And we will do more around integrated flight decks with AeroView and beyond that. The second major area is with our individual avionics component units, such as some of the products we announced today. So, many people will put in a whole flight deck. Many people will not. They just want one instrument or one flight display. And so there's plenty of activity there. And then the fourth area is what we call connected aircraft. Connected aircraft, it's the one place in the world right now where once you're up at altitude, other than the radio with ATC, you're really pretty disconnected, right? And so if you are flying over the United States, you have ADS-B weather and you can get data link weather. But if you leave the United States, say you like to fly to the Bahamas, right? You are now disconnected from ground-based weather. ForeFlight's not going to show you the most current weather. And so providing products and services that help connect aircraft all the time for things such as weather, or being able to take phone calls or web for the passengers or whatever, we see that as a big area. We see that as an area where we have unique competence, capability, competence, and products. So you'll see more and more from us there as well.
Interesting. The overall industry is seeing some changes now from a standpoint of how avionics has led much of general aviation and to a certain extent business aviation. The rate of change, the rate of innovation, the disruption, if you will, from avionics have certainly outpaced airframes, certainly outpaced power plants, and certainly given the regulatory environment something to deal with as well. Is this something that's sustainable, and where does BendixKing fit into all this right now when everybody is out there figuring out how to one-up the other while also cooperating in certain ventures? Where do you see yourself going, and how innovative can you be when you're up against the rest of the industry simultaneously?
Well, the For us, the pace is only getting faster,
Yeah.
right? So we're actually putting the throttle to max position in what we're doing. We are fortunate. We're part of Honeywell, so we have a lot of resources.
Doesn't hurt, does it?
No, it does not. Not in terms of human capital,
Yeah.
in terms of global coverage, in terms of financial wherewithal. We have that staying power, right? And so it's up to us to do something with it. The industry is innovating, and you mentioned that airframes and power plants have not changed all that much, historically. But there
Certainly
are some
not to the extent that avionics has.
Yes, but there are some new things afoot now. I mean, now urban air taxi, even though there's yet a vehicle that's going to be flying just yet, but it's but that whole movement is really taking off, and we, the collective we of BendixKing and Honeywell, are really sort of going into that direction. And when you go into that direction, it's new power plants, it's new aircraft configurations, it's new methods of lift, or combined methods of lift, and that forces changes in avionics, right? What the pilot wants to see on that screen is going to be different, and how we have to be in order to satisfy that pilot and that aircraft is different. And so it drives something which we haven't seen too much of in the industry lately, is flexibility. Those displays will not all look the same. Right? So we have to be flexible, we have to be innovative, and we are pushing that forward. And so I think that we're going to go into a period where it's not just avionics, it's going to be everything else that's going to change too. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the unmanned and autonomous segment. We produce programming for AUVSI on the commercial unmanned side, and for AEMA on the hobby drone side. And watching the development, for that matter, just trying to keep up with the news each week, is a full-time chore. At the same time, let's face it, a good 50% of it is smoke and mirrors. But the part that isn't is stunning.
Yes.
And trying to keep up with that, I mean, considering the fact that these are going to be primarily electronic systems and electric powered,
yes,
indicates that there's a big job ahead for anybody trying to plunge into that market. Both from the standpoint of monitoring what's going on, as well as now predicting what's happening to the health of the vehicle, the health of its systems, the health of its current autonomous systems, or whether it's ground-based control. That's a big job.
Yes, and it's it's interesting because all these innovations are really driving change, right? And we are already engaged with many of the urban air taxi developers, manufacturers, and other like vehicles. And one of the things that we already do is we allow people to completely customize parts of the display, right? They can do it, we can do it for them. They can do the type certificate, we can do the STC, either way. But a lot of aircraft companies come to us and say, look, I don't have 2 engines, I've got 18 engines, or I've got 6 engines, and I need electric indications, not fuel indications. And we say, well, let's work on it. And it's something we're able to do right now. So this actually helps them in their innovation, right? And so that is very nice to see, and it makes us better, regardless of what happens, smoke or mirrors or not. It makes us better.
Well, it's going to be a fabulously difficult industry to cover. It's going to be a very turbulent industry, because it is attracting a lot of folks with means, resources, and not necessarily the vision to be able to put it all together.
Yes. Yes.
So we're going to see a lot of companies by the wayside, but at the same time, the stuff that is showing promise right now is beyond belief.
I think also a very, very interesting thing that may happen, and I think all of us as industry participants can really contribute to this, is we can all contribute to make this market. And what I mean by making the market is, if these vehicles and these services really come to bear, then a large portion of the general population will for the first time be exposed directly to general aviation, a form of general aviation, right? They will be exposed to the convenience of flight. And once you've had the taste, you may decide you want more of it. And so we have a whole new population who now might be interested in doing more than just getting an air taxi. They may decide they want to fly themselves. And so that's a marketing and an exposure and a market expansion that all of us can benefit from.
Boy, talk about serious potential.
Yep.
Yeah, I can just imagine the bean counters are back there going, okay, we're liking this. This is good stuff.
Yes,
Ready.
exactly.
At the same time, though, the folks have to manage these programs are kind of going, oh, I got a headache.
Yep.
It's going to be tough to keep up with. There's been some turbulence on the political side of things in light of the Boeing controversies and, of course, the way media has so poorly covered it. But it's built a sense of let's do something on the part of politicians that could overtly and negatively affect certification parameters, the ability to certify, and the authorities that we're going to be dealing with for the future. Do you see the current let's litigate or criminalize aspects of certification or false certification as something that concerns you?
So it's not something that we at Bendix King have seen or felt in any way yet, right? I mean, we read the newspapers like everybody else, so we haven't seen this yet. It would for sure be a concern depending on which direction it went.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's all about the safety of the aircraft, right? Certification or not, right? It's especially us because we play in experimental. You have to put something up there that is safe,
yeah.
right? And however you go about, verifying that.
Well, the hard thing to communicate to general media is that for whatever little bits and pieces that tend to make them suspicious of the process, aviation's never been safer. The process has never been smoother. The products are increasingly complex day by day and far more innovative, and
yes.
yet ultimately they're working.
Yes.
No matter what you may think about current news, and let's face it, the data on that is far from complete. It's difficult to believe that ultimately there's something truly wrong with the system.
Right, and I guess we would say, without knowing all the details of everything that transpired,
yeah.
One issue among hundreds and thousands of certifications
Bingo.
that occur every year, yes, it should be looked into, but it should also be viewed in context of the grander scheme of things.
All that being said, let's wrap up with the toughest question of the bunch. What can we expect next from Bendix King? Just between you, me, and
everybody in the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're not going to draw me out like that. However,
we could try.
I would say this: if you will, quote unquote, watch this space over the next 3 or 4 weeks,
mm-hmm.
There will be more things coming out of Bendix King that will be very interesting for everybody involved.
Okay. Can we expect announcements by Oshkosh?
Yes, you can expect announcements before Oshkosh.
Excellent. Very
yes.
good. Well, Stephane, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us at Aero-News and the Airborne programming team. We'll look forward to seeing what's next from Bendix King, and more important, getting out into the real world and flying some of the new gear. In the meantime, how can people get more information on Bendix King?
Well, they can always go to our website. That's going to be www.bendixking.com.
All righty. We thank you very much for
your time. Thank you very much.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 62nd Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Palm Springs, California, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.